French is infamous for the sheer amount of silent letters it has. 2/3 of its present tense conjugations are silent despite being spelled otherwise, and the singular and plural forms of nouns and adjectives are typically pronounced the same. The reason for all of this is because of sound changes, of which French has gone through a lot. In the phonological history of French, word final a was shifted to schwa a before being dropped altogether. Then, many consonants at the ends of words were also dropped, at least before other consonants. Before vowels, though, something called liaison happens, where a word final consonant letter, which would otherwise be unpronounced, is fully realized due to the consonant sticking before the vowel. And it's because of liaison that you can't just not spell the letters out, otherwise you'd have random T's and Z's appearing between words. And since most French consonants are silent at the ends of words, there needs to be a way to indicate that a consonant is actually pronounced, in which case the letter E is written after consonants, which is also silent. This also helps for finding masculine and feminine forms of adjectives, since while final consonants are typically silent in masculine adjectives outside of liaison, they're pronounced in their feminine counterparts. Take the adjective for hot, which is chaud in the masculine with an unpronounced D, and chaude in the feminine with a non-silent D. But what if French wasn't like this? What if someone devised a form of French where every single letter is always pronounced, resulting in a complete linguistic abomination? Unfortunately for sane people, that's what I've created, a constructed form of French that I'm calling Français aspiré, named after H. aspiré, where every single silent letter in modern French, especially at the ends of words, are pronounced. Now, you might be thinking, that just sounds like Old French, but you're dead wrong. It's also kinda like Middle French. But in all seriousness, French's historical spelling is just that, historical, and so words have their older pronunciations fossilized. Pronouncing French this way is essentially digging those fossils out. But this form of French wouldn't be entirely like Old and Middle French. For one, the rhotic is still the trademark uvular approximant r. Old French ца, cha, and ja are fricatives sa, sha, and ja in Français aspiré, much like modern and Middle French, and vowels are largely unchanged from their modern French counterparts, many of which shifted from a variety of diphthongs in older forms of French. I'm also going with the Parisian pronunciation for sounds, so a and e are pronounced a and e, and nasal e is a. But theoretically, this would work with the sounds of any French variety just fine. At its core, Français aspiré has the exact same orthography, grammar, and vocabulary as Standard French, only being pronounced quite differently. The single biggest difference between modern French and Français aspiré is that practically every silent E is pronounced as a schwa sound instead of being silent, and final consonants are pronounced as they would be at the beginning of words regardless of liaison. Take for example the adjective white. Ignoring liaison, in the masculine singular and plural it's pronounced blanc in Standard French, and pronounced blanche in the feminine singular and plural, but in Français aspiré, these are pronounced blanc, blancs, blanche, and blanches respectively. Digraphs like ch and gn are pronounced normally as sh and nya respectively. Since being digraphs, neither letter is truly silent. This also applies to all the vowels, oral and nasal, written with more than one letter too. So OU, AI, EAU, AN, and AIN remain as OU, E, O, EN, and AN in Français aspiré. The exception to this are vowels which end in a silent E, which would be pronounced as schwa. So AIE, acute EE, IE, and UE are pronounced ea, ea, ia, and ua in this cursed version of French. I'm also making OI be pronounced as way like in Middle French instead of wa, since for OIE, it'd be easier to say wea instead of wa. H should always be pronounced, in this case as a simple h sound. The U and QU and GU should not be silent before vowels in Français aspiré, and will become ye, with con and gare turning into quant and guerre. French also has quite a few doubled consonants, such as double M, N, R, S, and T, which will all be pronounced geminated. Elision is still present, with the apostrophe remaining silent since it's not a letter of the French alphabet, but an elided H muet is pronounced in Français aspiré, so l'homme, meaning the man, becomes l'homme, And j'horrifie, meaning I horrify, turns into je horrifie. With French liaison, sa at the ends of words is pronounced za before vowels, and since this rule doesn't cause any consonants to be unpronounced, the same happens in Français aspiré. S in word final clusters BS, DS, and GS will also have the S be assimilated to voiced Z, such as in plombs, puids, and longs. When a silent X appears at the end of a word, it'll be pronounced sa, in analogy with cis and dis. Whenever final B, Z, and G are pronounced from liaison in standard French, they're realized as their voiceless counterparts pa, ta, and ka, but Français aspiré pronounces them as voiced regardless. Compare modern French grand ami, meaning great friend, with aspiré, grand ami. French also sometimes uses GE before A, O, and U to indicate that ja appears before them, and to avoid a silent E, it shall be pronounced as a schwa, as in mangerette. The digraph IL is largely unchanged, except for when it appears as a single E, with fils becoming fils. Word final ER and ES, which are typically pronounced E and silent respectively, will be R and US. Every single irregularity in French spelling remains in Français aspiré, so long as the irregularity wouldn't otherwise cause a letter to be silent. And on that note, foreign words in French are mostly unaffected unless any of its letters are strictly silent. And that's about all there is to this peculiar form of French that I have birthed. To demonstrate Français aspiré, I shall have a sample of a French text spoken out loud. But contrary to what me creating this may imply, I actually respect the French language, unlike many others, and don't even want to risk butchering any distorted French words. So I shall have a French native read aloud the French Wikipedia article about Ratatouille, entirely in Français aspiré.
Ratatouille est le 8e film d'animation en images de synthèse des studios américains Pixar, écrite et réalisée par Brad Bird, est sorti en salles en 2007. Le film raconte les aventures animées d'un rat nommé Rémi qui est séparé de sa famille lors d'une fuite en catastrophe de sa colonie, délogé de son lieu d'établissement. Rémi s'installe alors dans les cuisines de chez Gusto, un grand restaurant parisien, et fait la connaissance d'Alfredo Linguini, un jeune commis de cuisine. Acclamé tant par le public que par la critique, le film se hissa dès sa sortie en tête du box-office aux États-Unis, en France et au Royaume-Uni. Il sera finalement un succès et recevra diverses récompenses, dont l'Oscar du meilleur film d'animation en 2007.
And that's French but with every letter pronounced. There is no moral to this video. The only thing you could have gained by watching this is mild entertainment and educational value, both of which hardly apply if you speak French. I am so sorry, French speakers. In other news, thank you to my Patreon supporters Foroist, Dope Kid, Sunder, Eric Asim, Adam Zrinek, Kwon Junyok, Teo Tamara, among others. If you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a patron or subscribing. And until next time, au revoir.